Hey there, everybody. It's Rob from the Rant, and I'm back to bring you another 5-minute review. Now, seeing as how this is October, I figured I'd do a review of a nice, dark, Halloweenish type game, and this time I'm going to talk about Bloodborne. I know what you're saying. The game came out like last April, but this channel didn't exist last April, and let's face it, this is a perfect title to get your ghoulishness on, if you will. So, let's jump right into it. Bloodborne is essentially kind of like a really dark gothic clone of the Dark Souls games. That being said, it shares a lot in common with those games. For instance, the difficulty from the very beginning is substantially higher than most people will, well, let's face it, have the patience for, or the I love a challenge temperament. Most gamers will find it off-putting and kind of walk away. I don't blame them. The first time I played Dark Souls, the game beat the shit out of me for like a month. It took a long time for me to get acclimated to that one. That being said, Bloodborne, little less difficult. It's still very, very hard, but there's a few things in it that they changed just for this game which help it out dramatically in my opinion. First off, armor doesn't have any downsides really. Like in Dark Souls, if the armor was really heavy, your character would become kind of like encumbered with it, and it would slow down your movements and how quickly your stamina gauge refilled. In Bloodborne, the armor only has benefits and drawbacks in the sense of like one type of armor is strong against one type of attack but weak against another. So that in and of itself is very helpful. I mean, you have to admit, whenever you put on heavy armor, it sucks when it makes your character slow down. Bloodborne doesn't do that to you, thankfully. They gave us a bone on that one. The weapons in Bloodborne are pretty cool, actually. They have a lot of them that have these secondary kind of properties to them. I mean, every weapon in the game has two forms, a normal state and a transformed state. And sometimes it alters how the weapon is used heavily. Other times it just kind of gives you these bonus effects, if you will. For instance, there's one secret weapon that you can get later on in the game, which is essentially a mace. It doesn't have a transform state. Instead, what it has is when you hit the button to make the weapon transform, you kind of charge it briefly with electricity, so it does like electric damage on top of its normal damage, which actually, for a weapon that has really weak stats, just that one add-on bonus to it makes it tremendously powerful weapon to use against a bunch of different bosses. So, thumbs up on the weapons. I mean, let's face it, having all these different abilities can give you some real versatility when it comes to combat. My personal favorite is the chain, well, not the chain whip. Sorry, it's the threaded cane, which can turn into a chain whip. Give that one a try, I recommend it. Let's face it, graphics on this are supremely cool looking. Very dark, very gothic. Basically kind of looks like a nightmare version of Victorian England. So, me personally, I thought the graphics were killer as a result of that. Very gory though, lots of blood, and seeing as how the entire basis for the game is drawing power out of blood, makes sense that you'd get just doused with it left and right. As I said, the game is quite difficult because it is essentially a clone of Dark Souls, so it does do the inevitable thing. It lets you do New Game Plus runs, but every time you do a New Game Plus, the difficulty doubles. So unfortunately, you find yourself outpaced very quickly in how powerful you can make your character versus what's around you. That being said, the entire game is really good. It is a really well made game. The mechanics are very crispy. There's no real clipping errors. The way you fight when you engage one enemy or multiple enemies seems pretty seamless in the transition to me. That being said, overall, I'm going to give the game a 3 out of 5. Now, I know I said I really like the game, but I feel like the difficulty is just too much for the average gamer. They're going to either get frustrated or get bored because they won't make enough progress. So, bottom line, Bloodborne, 3 out of 5. This has been 5-minute reviews. Please remember to check out our other series on the Rant channel. We have Versus and our normal podcast, The Rant. And recently we just started doing live gameplay streams every Saturday. So check us out. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye-bye.